Welcome to the deep dive. Sometimes the most profound shifts, the really big changes, happen kind of behind the scenes.
Hmm.
Like in factory automation, it's evolving constantly, relentlessly. So how do you cut through all the noise and figure out what's actually shaping our future?
Yeah, there's a lot out there.
Well, today, we're aiming to give you a shortcut, a way to get genuinely well-informed. We're going to pull back the curtain on a major upcoming event and a really powerful organization that's driving the future of industrial automation.
Okay.
Our insights,
Yeah.
they're coming straight from the source, universalautomation.org and the official IEE ETFA 2025 conference website.
Exactly. And this deep dive, it isn't just about listing cool new gadgets.
Yeah.
Our goal is really to give you those aha moments, helping you understand not just what new tech is coming, but also who's behind it, and crucially, the foundations like data privacy that make it all work globally.
Absolutely. And to really set the scene, we need to talk about a specific place and time. We're heading metaphorically, of course, to Porto, Portugal, September 2025.
Significant event happening there.
It really is.
Yeah.
This is where so many of these critical conversations are going to happen. Okay, let's unpack this. So let's start with the heart of the automation world, you could say.
Okay.
We're talking about the 30th IE International Conference on Emerging Technologies and Factory Automation, ETFA 2025 for short.
Right. ETSA 2025.
It's a flagship event
Mhm.
for the IE Industrial Electronics Society. Now, for anyone maybe not familiar, IE is the leading global professional body for this stuff. Industrial automation, electronics,
Huge organization, very influential.
definitely. And this conference, September 9th to 12th, 2025 in Porto. The main goal is to bring together the international community, researchers, industry folks, everyone.
Sharing the latest research, innovative ideas.
Exactly. Discussing where industrial and factory automation is heading. It's a massive deal. It genuinely shapes industries.
And here's a key thing to understand. Universalautomation.org, or UAO, they aren't just, showing up. No, they're actually a co-organizer and a major sponsor. Now, that level of involvement, it's not just a nod of approval.
Right. It's more than that.
It's a really powerful signal. It shows their central role in leading and actively shaping where this field is going. They're not just participating, they're driving.
That kind of commitment definitely signals leadership, yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of driving things, there's this standard that's getting a lot of buzz, IEC 61499.
Ah, yes. IEC 61499.
UAO and another group, Eclipse 40AO,
Yeah.
seem to be really pushing the discussions around it.
Yeah.
Now, Eclipse 40AO, that's like an open source framework that actually uses IEC 61499, right?
That's correct. It's a key implementation community.
So from your perspective, what's the one thing about this standard that's truly transformative? And maybe what's the biggest hurdle UAO faces getting everyone on board with this whole plug and produce idea?
Okay, great question. Really gets to the core, the real aha moment with IEC 61499. It isn't just the tech, the separating software from hardware bit.
Okay.
It's that this standard fundamentally unlocks a multi-vendor ecosystem. Think about it. For decades, industry's been kind of locked into these proprietary single-vendor systems.
Right. Very close off. Stifles innovation sometimes.
Exactly. Stifles innovation, makes upgrades super expensive. So UAO's big push for plug and produce, built on IEC 61499, it's about breaking those chains.
Okay, so like apps on a smartphone.
Precisely. Imagine picking the best software from different developers, mixing it with hardware from various makers seamlessly, like apps on your phone no matter who made the phone itself.
That kind of flexibility. Right.
It fosters real collective innovation across the whole supply chain, simplifies operations. But the biggest challenge, it's overcoming decades of that ingrained proprietary thinking, getting the big industrial players to fully embrace this open, interoperable future. That's the hurdle.
That smartphone analogy really hits home. It clarifies the ambition, the plug and produce vision, and UAO isn't just, talking the talk. They're putting it into action at ETFA 2025.
They are. They've got specific events lined up.
Yeah, like Workshop WSO3. It's called Advancing Industrial Automation Best Practices and Innovations with IEC 61499. That's on September 9th. And it builds on a workshop they did back in 2024. Trying to bring more industry pros into the conversation. It seems like it. Then on the 10th, there's an industry forum, IEC 61499 in the industry, described as a comprehensive exploration of the latest advancements in practical applications.
So really digging into the how-to.
Exactly. So for you listening right now, Why is understanding this, maybe even getting involved, why is it worth your time?
Well, the sources point to a few key things. It's more than just going to a conference.
Right.
It's about building the ecosystem, the one that breaks vendor lock-in. It's about networking, actually talking to the experts, the researchers who are defining what's next.
And being part of the innovation itself, right? The part that separates software from hardware.
Absolutely. It's about getting ahead of a really fundamental shift in how things are done.
Okay. And while UAO is focused on IEC 61499, ETFA 2025 itself is much broader, isn't it?
Oh, hugely broad. It covers the entire factory automation landscape. The scope is immense.
Give us a taste. What other kinds of topics are being discussed?
Well, just looking at the topics of interest, you've got things like autonomous robotic systems, AI, machine learning, the usual suspects, but applied directly to industry.
Okay.
Then there's haptics and human-robot interaction. That's fascinating stuff, making robots easier and more intuitive for people to work alongside.
Yeah, that interaction piece is key.
Definitely. And, of course, industrial cybersecurity. Methods, technologies,
Yeah.
absolutely critical with how connected modern factories are.
So all these diverse fields,
Yeah.
they all kind of come together under this factory automation umbrella.
Exactly. It shows just how sophisticated and interconnected these future systems are going to be. It's really complex.
It's clear. ETFA 2025 and UAO are really defining the future operationally for global industries. But for innovation like this to really work, to be trusted worldwide, it needs a solid base.
Rock solid foundation. Absolutely.
So let's shift gears a bit. Let's move from the what they're building to the how. How does an organization like universalautomation.org ensure it's trustworthy? How does it operate responsibly through its privacy and legal frameworks?
That's a really important transition because you need to understand that universalautomation.org, it's set up as an international nonprofit organization.
Okay, international nonprofit.
Right. And to operate effectively across borders, to host big events like ETFA, manage members from all over, they absolutely need clear, robust legal and privacy rules.
Makes sense. Different countries, different laws.
Exactly. These frameworks, they're the bedrock. They allow UAO to function ethically, effectively across all these different jurisdictions with their varying requirements.
Okay, so let's dive into that bedrock, the privacy policy. For a global nonprofit in this space, what kinds of personal data do they actually need? Maybe stuff that isn't immediately obvious. And how do they balance needing that data with protecting user privacy?
Good question, focusing on the less obvious. So, beyond the basics, name, email, job title,
The standard stuff.
Right. What's insightful is how their role as a global event host directly shapes the breadth of data they collect. Think payment data for signing up.
Sure, got to process payments.
But also potentially special categories of data, like health information.
Health info. Why?
We'll think about event logistics, dietary requirements for catering, accessibility needs for attendees with disabilities.
Right. Practical necessities for running an international event.
Exactly. But here's the crucial part. For that kind of sensitive data, they need your specific explicit consent. That's a key differentiator in how they handle it. They also gather info from public sources or maybe from your own company if it relates to your business dealings with UAO.
Okay, so that's the what they collect. How do they actually use it? How does that align with their mission as this open, collaborative organization?
They basically use data for three main reasons, three pillars. First, pretty straightforward, to deliver the services you asked for.
Like technical documents, event registration, membership stuff.
Exactly. Second, for critical operational and legal compliance. This is things like handling payments, making sure they follow complex global rules, antitrust, export laws, anti-money laundering.
Serious legal back-end stuff.
Right, and robust fraud prevention. Given their global reach, that might even involve some sophisticated automated checks.
Okay, and the third pillar.
That's about continually refining their services and communications, improving the user experience, maintaining security. Now, for things like marketing newsletters, surveys, they rely on your explicit consent.
So you have to opt in.
Yes, and you always have the right to opt out. That control is really important, ensuring you manage what communications you get from them.
That focus on user control is definitely crucial. And speaking of control, I noticed something interesting in their policy. A very frank statement about data security.
Oh, what was that?
They say that while they take appropriate technical and organizational measures to protect data, no method, whether it's transmission or storage, is 100% secure.
That's a realistic disclaimer.
It is. But it makes you wonder, how do they handle those inherent risks, especially operating globally.
That's a fair point. And it raises that bigger question. How do global organizations juggle operations across borders with all the different privacy laws?
Yeah.
Well, their policy is quite clear about your rights as a user. You have the right to object, to access your data, correct it, withdraw consent, ask for restrictions or erasure, even data portability.
So you can take your data elsewhere.
Potentially, yes.
Sure.
And they give you a specific email address, data.privacy@universeautomation.org, just for exercising those rights.
That's good. Direct contact.
And because UAO is international, your personal data might get transferred abroad, maybe outside the European Economic Area, the EEA.
That's the EU plus a few others, right?
Right. Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway, or even outside Australia, to countries that might have different data protection standards.
Okay, so if my data crosses borders, potentially to somewhere with, let's say, lesser protections, what keeps it safe? What safeguards are there?
Good question. They explain that for these international transfers, especially outside the EEA or Australia, they make sure those transfers use appropriate safeguards.
Like what, for example?
Well, a common one is using EU standard contractual clauses.
Standard contractual clauses. What are those, basically?
Think of them like a legal passport for your data. Even if it travels outside the EU, it's supposed to carry those same robust protections and rights it had back home.
Okay, so it maintains a consistent level of security.
That's the goal, yeah, ensuring security and integrity wherever it goes. They also mention sharing info with trusted affiliates and suppliers, folks who help with hosting, maintenance, security.
The partners they need to function.
Exactly. And of course, with competent authorities if legally required, like for court orders or legal defense. And yes, they do use Google Analytics like many sites just to understand website usage and improve things.
Right, that's pretty standard. What's really clear from all this, though, is just how vital these detailed legal and privacy frameworks are.
Absolutely critical.
They're not just, bureaucratic hoops to jump through. They actively build trust. They ensure ethical operation, especially for an organization driving such important tech standards.
For sure. Without that strong foundation, the innovation itself, it would be on pretty shaky ground, globally speaking.
So we've really covered a lot today. We've gone from the cutting-edge stuff at the EITFA 2025 conference in Porto.
That multi-vendor ecosystem vision.
Exactly. To the foundational principles of universalautomation.org. Especially their big push for that transformative IEC 61499 standard. And then we dove into the really crucial, detailed world of data privacy and the legal structures that actually make it all possible and hopefully trustworthy.
And that, you see, that really gets to the core of being truly well-informed today.
How so?
It means understanding not just the flashy new tech, the shiny objects, but also the solid, often complex structures underneath that support how it's developed, how it's deployed around the world.
It's about connecting the dots.
Precisely. Connecting innovation with responsibility, recognizing that one can't really thrive, not sustainably anyway, without the other.
So whether you, listening, are keenly interested in where automation is headed, or maybe the power of standards like IEC 61499 to shake up industries and break that vendor lock-in.
Or maybe you're just curious about how these big international organizations handle your personal data.
Yeah. We hope this deep dive has given you some maybe surprising facts, but definitely some clear, useful insights.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. In this world that's getting more automated, more interconnected every day, where innovation like plug and produce is changing how we live and work, what is the ultimate responsibility of the people creating these systems?
Beyond just making the tech work.
Exactly. Not just the tech capability, but safeguarding the very your information that makes it all possible. How do we make sure that the convenience, the efficiency of all this new tech doesn't come at the cost of our personal control, our privacy? And how do we hold these global players accountable?
That is definitely a question worth pondering. A lot to think about long after this deep dive ends.